Hi guys, it's Chuck here, and I wanted to give you a bit of a heads up of what we've been working on in 2014 and how it's allowed us, our business to grow. And we've had some challenges over the last little while. We've been trying to get the right people on the team, and we've had a bit of transition over the last 12 months, and it's been very exciting, very challenging. But let me show you what the vision is and what we're trying to accomplish here. We've talked about mice and cheese and whiskers and cats before, and the whole concept is that buyers are looking for the information, the cheese, and they want to avoid these guys. So we've really built our whole system in the before unit around that. So something like this, very traditional offering, get a free home evaluation, that's all whiskers. And so we've always believed in things like this, which is from gettinglistings.com, and it's a much cheesier offer. It's much more compelling for a potential home seller to respond to something like this, and we call this direct response. It's measurable, and so we've been getting great results with this on Facebook, about $5 a lead. So we've actually canceled some of our postcards. We've done some we've done some door hangers that have been very successful for a certain style of home, of which there's about 1,000 of those homes in Milton. And I have Annette go out and do that individually, one by one, walking those streets that have those homes. So we also do Milton Daily Homes, and the funnel for this is really the searchmiltonhomes.com site, which collects the email addresses. I've modified the words on that site, so it's a little bit different than the usual money-making website. But this is really the way that we stay in touch with people. We try and educate them and guide them to the point where they're empowered as buyers. And then also on the right hand side is where you have the next steps, the buyer class, Starbucks. And we're constantly offering things to these buyers. For sellers, it's the room by room review, it's the pinpoint price analysis, it's the silent market, the tour of Milton homes for buyers. So we have about 10 or 12 different things on either side that we can offer. And so what I would say to sellers is that most people will start looking for the buyer after the sign is up. And I think that where the future of real estate lies is that we have a list of 13,000 people that we can contact before we even really start the process. So those coming soon signs, effective in some ways, but I think that a more effective thing to do is to collect that group and then send out the listing before it even starts, boosted posts on Facebook, mailing lists, newsletters, anything that you can do there. So the other opportunities when you have a buyer or seller are numerous, and so it's at least 3 to 5 times the income in the other opportunities than there is in the core objective. So when you have a buyer, helping them buy is the core objective, but you have a lot of other ways that you can create income for yourself. The second way is to get the listing that they buy, so to somehow double end that process. Now, being that you have a buyer, you might also find that there's another listing that wants to sell in that process. Maybe it's a for sale by owner that ends up wanting to use you, or it could be someone that's not even on the market. And then you can get a referral from the buyers. On the selling end, selling the listing is obviously the core objective, but there's a lot of other things here that you can do. You can find the buyer for that home, so you can double end it. There's a good chance the buyer is going to come in the open house and not buy that home. They're going to buy another home. Or a sign call, the next listing on the street, and also to get a referral from the seller. So one of the things we've noticed is a real keystone concept, and we've been working on it on our team in the last few weeks, is the neighborhood preview open house, because the preview really accomplishes many of these things. So the preview, there's a good chance the neighbors are going to know a friend or family member that they can refer. It also is very effective at showing the street that, hey, I do this different than my competitors, and it's a very referable moment for the seller. So sometime on Thursday between 5 and 7, we've got all of the ducks in a row here. We're just working out some kinks in terms of what we'd say to people when they come in and the kind of materials that we provide them. But we're really working very diligently on making sure that a neighborhood preview happens. And so really trying to make matches is another thing that we've done this year. So we've got buyers, we've got sellers, we've got a list of them. And what do we do with them? We try and put them together. And I think a lot of the times is we get so focused on the one side that we forget that we might be able to make those profit triangles. So this is what we've done in gogoclients.com, which is our main database, CRM. The first maybe 10 check boxes here are, it says NPR condo apartment, rural, semi-detached. That's the type of home. It's very easy to find that on the land registry. The second group, the happy faces, are the neighborhood, Beatty, Old Milton, rural, Scott, Timberley. That's also very easy to find if you have the address. And the third one is the price range, the flags here. So this actually gets modified as we adjust our guide to Milton prices, because obviously if I flag someone as a $300,000 house now, 5 years from now they're a $400,000 house. So we move these categories with the market. As the market goes up overall 5% per year, we adjust these price ranges about once a year. So how do we use that? Have a buyer looking for $450,000. I can pull up price range D, and I've got 109 people that actually are in the Milton price report, and I'll show you what we send to them in just a second. If they're looking for Coates Crossing, a specific school or an area or a reason why they want to be there, I've got 30 people that I could reach out to that are much closer to the goal line than, let's just say, if I were to open the phone book. So here's the email. Question about your house in Hawthorne Village. This is to somebody who's subscribed to Getting Listings. Hi, John. I just got an email from a couple in Mississauga who are looking for a semi-detached house in Milton. I remember looking up your house online when we sent you the Milton price report a couple of months ago. It seems like your house might be in their range, and I'm not sure what your plans are, but I thought I'd send you an email to see if I could tell them about your house. And then it's got my name and my signature. So that's a very effective way to reach out to John. And maybe he's ready, maybe he's not. This email is certainly not trying to coerce him into doing anything, but he will remember this email whether or not he wants to sell now or later. And the second one is this one here that you can send to a past client. You can name it whatever you want, put your client's name in there, but it would just say Tracy. So let's say Tracy lives in a townhouse complex where you have a buyer who's looking to buy in that townhouse complex. I'm showing homes this weekend to a family from Toronto. They want a 4-bedroom double garage on a quiet street. Have you heard of anybody in the area that's looking to move? I might be able to help them out. And then it's got all of our information there. So we're giving Tracy a chance to be a hero, which is a very important subtle difference, because a lot of times when we ask Tracy to refer us, our self-esteem gets involved, her self-esteem. It almost gets awkward for both of us. But as we learned from Coach Dan Paris from Buy Referral Only, is that it's more effective to refer a process or an event or another person connecting, because Tracy really is now the middleman, and she has the chance to really help a lot of people at the same time. So Tracy's going to feel really good if that works out. So what if the MLS was the last place that you looked for the ideal home? That's what we've started to do on our team, is by sending out neighbor alerts, and I'll show you some of those in just a second. Looking through expireds and FSBOs and all the different places where you can go. Our mailing list, we're trying to make sure the MLS is the absolute last place that we go. So neighbor alerts, we've got just listed, just sold. All of those templates are in the Buy Referral library. We also use in the after unit the world's most interesting postcard. This has been very effective in letting people know that we're still open for business, because one of the biggest poisons in your after unit is the fact that people think you get too busy, and it's not true. So this gives two very specific referral requests saying, I'm looking for something like this. If you hear of somebody who's in a conversation, remember, they have to notice conversations, then they have to think of you, then they have to introduce you. This accomplishes all of those things. We've had great success with the 9-word email. So for any leads that you've had come into your system, are you still looking for a home in Port Credit? chuck. And so what's so effective about this is that it's going to hopefully drive people to one side or the other. Because when you're dealing with a large volume of leads, the unknown is the dangerous and also the muck that clogs the pipes up. So I'm okay if they're not looking anymore, and I'm definitely okay if they are still looking, but those two, I have an action step. Not looking, toss them out. Looking, okay, great, let's get into conversation. But the middle, the unknown, this email has a way of polarizing those two sides. We've been using the 7-step process about as consistently as we ever have. That is also in the Buy Referral Only library. And we're just working on a great book. I wrote it really for the team to help them with their phone dialogues and their email dialogues to convert more leads. It's some of my best thinking and some of my best work in this business. So I can definitely share that with you guys. So Odette here is in a program called Follow Up Boss, and this is the main driver that we use to manage our leads. And so GoGo Clients does most of the during and after units. It still manages our mailing list for getting listings, but this program is all about when someone fills in a form on a website, they go in here, MLS.ca, our money-making website, whatever it is, they go into this program called followupboss.com. And so you can set your team up on a round robin. You can set it up so as soon as a lead comes in, it calls your phone and it says, a lead just came in, press 1 to speak to them. So it can text message you. It looks up their social profile. You can keep all your notes organized. So our 7-step process happens more consistently, predictably, and much more efficiently using this system. And Facebook has been going great for us. This is a before unit strategy. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but stay with me here. This is for our Search Milton Homes site. We've been paying 26 cents per click, and I just raised the budget up to $100. You can see on the right-hand side how much it's blipped up. This has been amazing for us. We've got a click-through rate of almost 3%, which is very good. So 3 out of 100 people that see this will click on it. And what happens is they actually charge you less on Facebook when they're getting more clicks because they're getting more consistent income. It's when your ad is bad that you end up paying a lot of money for it. So this is getting us traffic and clicks to our website for about 1/8 of the price of Google. I pay Google about $1.80 per click at 26 cents per click. I'm loving every minute of this. This is what it looks like on the news feed on the middle page. Search Milton Homes, download the guide to Milton prices. I've had 34 shares and 156 likes on this thing, and it's been wildly effective for us. Probably one of the best things I did this year, and it's super easy to do. I can show someone how to do a Facebook ad in less than 10 minutes. And if you want, we can address that in a future meeting. So easy button is the other thing. And so how can you really be an entrepreneur? And I've thought a lot about that this year because I was pigeonholing myself. I wasn't making progress. And I finally decided to let go. That's where I've started to write the book on how to convert leads. I've started to recognize that these projects, if they sit around too long, the neighborhood preview open house, it's just not doing anything for the business. And any breakthroughs we've had in terms of income or quality of life have always come from stepping away from the business and working on the business instead of in it. So I love this quote. I found it earlier this year. And so entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. Entrepreneurs see an opportunity and don't feel constrained from pursuing it because they lack resources. So what's important is, does this work? Is it a business booster? If it is, and you're not doing it, then you're not being an entrepreneur. You're actually stifling the growth of your business, because all we need to do is start seeing opportunities. And so there's a formula that I've worked with very carefully. I'm trying to train myself, but I love this quote too. So give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I'll move the world. Leverage is very, very important. I've started to see how effective leverage can be in my own business instead of me trying to do everything and bottlenecking. So what if every time you grew, you had less to do? When would you be through? That's a Dan Sullivan quote from Strategic Coach. And really think about that, okay? So every time something happens in your business where you bring someone on board or a system's developed, you now have less to do, and what happens is the income tends to go up. It's really, really fascinating. So figure out the why, and then figure out the what, and then from there, figure out the who and the do, because most of us go from what to do and we don't think about who. And I've started to interject that and say, who can be the person who does this that's not me? And it's a little tricky. It requires some trust, but it has a huge, huge benefit to you as a business owner. So stop being busy all the time is a good thing to do. I've really tried to get away. I've tried to simplify my schedule. You can see this all the time. The media is glorifying busy. Have you ever seen this at a dinner where people are not even speaking to each other? They're just on their phones. It drives me crazy. And I don't want to say I'm completely without fault here, but I've really tried to be conscious of that. Simple is harder than complex, according to Steve Jobs. So what's one thing today you can do to make life simpler, make your business simpler? And so Ivan talks about this, that it's not what else, or like adding something on. Sometimes it's saying, is that enough? Or even better is, what's my not to do list? And I've tried to embrace that. Regis shows up. I used to do the whole process for Milton Daily Homes. And I thought, Regis, Oprah, they don't do that. They show up, they inject their personality, and they're gone. And the editing department does their thing, and the producer does his thing. And the whole cast behind them, they're the stars of the show, but there's a whole supporting cast. And so I thought about that, about each part of my business, and how what parts do I need to be Regis for, and what parts do I not? So what's the magic juice? And so Jim Collins in Good to Great defines it as the intersection of these three things. What's your money-making machine? What do you love to do? And what are you best in the world at? And if you can find that, that's unique ability. And it's the best definition I have about unique ability. Checking emails is polishing, not art, and we all fall into that trap. And so it is definitely not doing this. The creator of this particular piece of art was not checking their email. This requires attention, focus, and just things that we're not always doing because we're getting caught up in distractions. And it's not about trying harder. I think society brings this message is that we have to just power through and strong arm our way. Motivation here is that, these are funny quotes, by the way, if you have a chance to read them. So what if the environment didn't depend on willpower? If you were able to create an ecosystem that really the ecology is something that doesn't require you to push through, because the barriers that you hit are usually not because you're not trying hard enough. It's because something in the environment is holding us back. So market making, we sent this flyer out to 160 townhouses, and it was all about Corey. My name's Corey. I'm currently in the market to buy a townhouse. Right now I'm staying with family from out of town. I've seen a few Mattamy townhouses, but they've been a little bit plain. I've chosen this complex because I like these things. I wanted to reach out to you to see if you're interested in selling. If you are, speak to my agent. So that was really about helping a buyer versus helping an agent. So we wrote that on purpose to not be from Chuck or from Shalini, but from Corey, the buyer. And so that, I think, has improved the response. 160 townhouses. We got this email back, and it said, we received your flyer yesterday. We have yet to contact an agent, but we're starting to get around to thinking about selling. We've never sold a house. Can you please let me know if your client would be interested in buying our home and where we'd go from there? the end result of this was Corey bought a home that was coming on the market in a week. So he bought it before it hit MLS. There was another agent involved on the listing side. And Mike and his wife ended up buying a home with us and selling this particular home, not to Corey, but they sold it to another buyer. So that was 3 transactions that came from one flyer that took less than an hour to deliver to 160 townhouses. And so we sent another flyer out to an older community in Milton. And so we got a couple of responses from that. We showed 2 homes that weren't even listed on the market yet. So, hi, my name is Dawn and my wife's Sharon. And it's funny how the mirroring happens is that they literally write the same way that they received the letter. I got the flyer today. Here's a little background about us. We've decided to sell privately. We'd love to sell and have a long closing. And here's a bit about our place. Hope this helps you. And he's already said when we meet. So we had a chance to go see him. And we actually had 2 different buyers that we introduced to the house, but it just didn't work. And he ended up selling privately. But we had another similar situation a week later. And all happening because we found stuff before it hit MLS. And the most recent sale in this complex was somebody that we sent a message out to. They had an agent. We put the deal together aside, like out of MLS. So we have had 3 sales in this particular neighborhood, none of which have hit MLS. And we've been involved with all of them in some regard because of what we're doing with this flyer. It's a very high demand area. It's the only part of Milton that has bungalows that are a little bit newer. So what if we did this once a week? And I started thinking about this more and more. What if we could up the consistency? I'm not going to do it myself. I don't have time, but could I get somebody else in? Annette is a client of ours that bought a house before we listed it. We put it out on our Milton Daily Homes. We said this is coming out in a few days, and she was pretty happy. Sold her house and then bought that house, and now she's a part of the team. So Annette, I said to her, you can come on board for 30 hours a week, and when you wake up, the only job is to go find the other half. If we have a buyer, go look for the listing that they're going to buy. So here's the kind of questions that Annette would ask me. Who are you showing houses to this week? She'll go to the whole team and say, what are you doing? Have you asked your clients who live in those neighborhoods if you've heard anyone who's thinking about selling? So that goes back to that mailing list where we have categories and go-go clients. How about our seller leads? Do we have a match upcoming on the market? And then have we sent a flyer into the specific neighborhood they're looking for? These are all market making things. And so Annette's position is called the market maker. So how about sellers? Who are we going to see about selling their home? Have we told our buyer prospects about that? I just listed a home where 3 or 4 hours before, sent an email out to the big list of people, almost 12,000 people in our Milton Daily Homes list. I had 7 responses. I played 2 voicemails for them when I was sitting at the table saying, I've already got 2 buyers that want to hear about your house. Plus, here's the other emails. And I don't think there was any doubt in anyone's mind who they were going to ask to sell their house. Have you told your clients? Are you planning a pop-in open house for the neighbors? These are all questions that we're starting to put into our listing and buying process. And to do that consistently once a week. So Annette helps me produce the videos, which carves a half hour a day easily off of my schedule. She also, in some cases, might manage the 7 steps. Even though she's unlicensed, she can do some of the email process. She's running getting listings. She's doing those door hangers. She's matchmaking for us. The Listing Next Door postcard, which is at thelistingnextdoor.com. She's working on any future projects, and Jody's job is to be the during coordinator now. So she's eliminated a few of her responsibilities, and so Annette and Jody kind of play off each other and do whatever needs to happen. So Annette might go install an info box on a sign to help in the during unit, but she's really the before unit coordinator. And so I hand her this and I say, okay, great, here's where you drop the flyers. right? We've even come up with a formula of how that flyer should be written and the 10 questions that we should ask any of our team members when they have a buyer. That's the Listing Next Door postcard. You can drop it anywhere where there's a sold sign. And so Annette works 30 hours per week. She's $15 an hour plus mileage. If you do the math on that, that's $25,000 a year. And my question to you as an entrepreneur is, basically, is she worth it? Of course she is. This is a concern people have. What if she doesn't have enough to do? Do you get mad at your car when it's sitting in the driveway and it's not driving? No, I thought she wouldn't have enough to do. She has more than enough to do. In fact, I may hire a second Annette very soon because there's so much to do out there. So the first 60 days, 3 direct buyer visits to unlisted homes, 2 listings and 2 buyers directly attributable to her efforts. We also had an additional 2 listing presentations. We found a house before it hit MLS. The buyer bought it. More consistent systems, over 6,000 letters hand delivered. And Jody is also now freed up to do her best work in the During unit. And I gained at least an hour a day in my schedule. So heck yeah, I'm going to keep her around. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor in the world, is a 20% annual yield. So if he puts $100 in his magic box, at the end of the year, it's worth $120. So I look at Annette, can I 20% her salary? Absolutely, for sure, without a doubt. And so the organization chart for us is really just about taking away those hats and starting to focus on the unique ability. So really looking at money as freedom chips that allow us to, as the business grows, start to free ourselves up to wear less and less hats, which obviously makes us a lot happier, and really to squeeze our entrepreneurial juice. What's your magic juice? So that's really the message I have for you, is to remain focused on what you're best at, and to really draw the line here and say, right after you identify the what, is to say who can be the next person to do it, because you can't be the jack of all trades as much as you would like to. It doesn't happen. And the relief and the things that happen, there's never been a single person that 10 or 20 years down the road they ever regretted, number 1, buying real estate, and number 2, hiring help. Hiring good help, hiring the right person always is a good idea. And so think about it as, what's your juice or milk, right? So you need a good farmer. Dean talks about this. It's a bit of an abstract concept, but what is it that you can do that people around you can support you getting out into the world? And so that's the milk that you really want to be concerned with. That's the unique ability right there. And so stop getting caught up in doo-doo and get an Annette. If you don't get an Annette, at least I hope you learned something from this video about connecting your database, about starting to look at buyers and sellers and how you can put them together, and even to notify some of your past clients about things that they do. So there's a lot of, or notify your past clients about buyers that you have and things they can do to help you. So I know we overlap before, during, and after. If you have time to show this at the Invitational, that's great. If not, I hope you watch this after the Invitational and you get a lot of great ideas. So thank you very much, and we'll see you later.